You know that feeling when you're finally settling in for the night, ready to just relax, and suddenly your legs have a totally different plan? It's that antsy, gotta move feeling that can drive you absolutely nuts. Well, today we're going to dive deep into this super common, but often really misunderstood condition.
Seriously, does it ever feel like your legs just have a will of their own, especially when you're trying to wind down? Like they're gearing up for a midnight marathon, right when you're trying to binge watch your favorite show or, actually fall asleep. If any of that is ringing a bell, trust me, you are in good company.
And the names people have for this feeling are just fantastic. We're talking about the crawlies, the itchies, even the shakies, or that classic pins and needles feeling. But no matter what you call it, the one thing everyone agrees on is this overwhelming urge that you just have to move to make it stop.
So what is this little nighttime leg dance all about, really? Beyond all the quirky nicknames, there's a real medical thing happening here. So let's get into it and break down exactly what's going on.
Okay, so the official name is Restless Legs Syndrome, or RLS for short, and it's a neurological condition, which just means it's all about your brain and your nerves miscommunicating. The main event is that uncontrollable urge to move, which is basically your body's desperate attempt to get relief from some seriously unpleasant feelings. And the timing is everything. It almost always shows up when you're trying to rest.
And get this, it is way more common than most people think. RLS affects up to 10% of adults. That is a huge number. So if you're feeling this, it means there are literally millions of other people who know exactly what you're going through. So what's the deal here? Why do our legs seem to go rogue like this? Well, it turns out it's not random at all. It's actually a pretty fascinating and thankfully often fixable little glitch in the communication system between your brain and your body. And it pretty much boils down to these two key players, dopamine and iron. So think of it this way. Dopamine is a messenger in your brain that helps control your muscles. It's the thing that's supposed to tell your legs, hey, chill out, we're relaxing now. But for your brain to make that dopamine, it needs iron. Iron is like the battery pack for the messenger. So when your brain's iron levels get too low, those dopamine signals get weak, and that's the glitch. Your brain just can't send the be still message properly, and bam, you get that crazy urge to move.
Now, on top of that main problem, there are definitely things that can make it all worse. I mean, the biggest trigger is just sitting still for too long. But things like caffeine, alcohol, and nicotine can absolutely pour fuel on the fire. And what's interesting is that even some common medications, like certain antihistamines or antidepressants, can actually kick the symptoms into high gear. Okay, now let's talk about how this whole thing develops, because it turns out that when your RLS starts can give us some major clues about where it came from and what to expect down the road.
So RLS basically comes in two main flavors. If it starts before you're 45, that's early onset. This kind often runs in families, so there's a genetic link. It usually gets worse, but very, very slowly. On the other hand, if it starts after 45, we call that late onset. This type is way more likely to be connected to other health stuff, especially that iron deficiency we just talked about, and it can get worse much faster.
All right, enough about the problem. Let's get to the good stuff, the solutions. Because the best news is that there are so many things you can do to manage RLS. So think of this next part as your personal relief toolkit. And the best place to start is always with simple stuff you can do right at home. This is your first line of defense. Things you can try tonight that can make a huge difference with zero side effects.
So what's in this toolkit? Well, moderate daily exercise is a game changer. Just don't do a super intense workout right before bed. A warm bath or a leg massage can feel like heaven. And you can't underestimate good sleep hygiene. A cool, dark room and a consistent schedule really help. Even simple things like stretching or trying a cold wrap on your knees can help calm things down.
But look, sometimes self-care just isn't enough to quiet those legs. And if that's you, that is completely okay, because medical science has made some really big leaps in treating RLS.
Okay, this is really important because the thinking on this has changed. The absolute first thing a doctor should check is your iron, specifically a level called ferritin. If it's low, iron supplements are step number one. But here's the big shift. For a long time, doctors used drugs called dopamine agonists. We now know that for a lot of people, these can actually backfire long-term. So the new first-choice medications are often things called gabapentinoids, which work by calming down those overexcited nerves with a much lower risk of problems.
So what is this backfiring effect I mentioned? It actually has a name, augmentation.
And it's this cruel twist where the very medicine that's supposed to help ends up making your symptoms even worse over time. They might start earlier in the day, feel more intense, or even spread to your arms. And this is exactly why the treatment guidelines have shifted.
So, you're armed with all this knowledge now. What do you actually do with it? Let's map out a clear path forward so you can start getting your restful nights back.
Here is your action plan. Step 1. Become a detective. Keep a symptom log for a couple of weeks. Write down what it feels like and when it happens. Step 2. Take that log to your doctor. Step 3, and this is crucial, you have to ask for blood work. Getting your iron and ferritin levels checked is an absolute must. And finally, step 4, remember to layer your treatments. The best results always come from combining those awesome self-care habits with the right medical advice for you.